Welcome to DC2B Revolution, helping chiropractic students think big in order to live large. I'm your host, Noah Volz, and today I'm here with Dr. Jonathan Parham. He graduated in 2016, so I'm really excited to talk to him. He's fresh from school, and he's practicing as part of Davis Chiropractic in Reno, Nevada. Prior to chiropractic school, he had a lot of experiences that built his skill set as part of a physical therapy office, working with a multidisciplinary team. So excited to learn from you in that regard. And then you were also very involved with the student ACA, American Chiropractic Association organization while in school. So also want to pick your brain about that. So Dr. Jonathan Parham, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I love what you're doing, and I love that you're getting everyone involved and trying to, kind of expose everybody out there, especially students, to, what the real world is like, if you will. So thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm a student at Life West, and so naturally, I started out with the channel interviewing a lot of vitalistic, subluxation-based chiropractors, and now I'm kind of on the evidence-based chiropractic circuit. So excited to have you, talking about your experience, and let's just start with that. What was kind of your experience graduating 2016? Did you feel like there were a lot of jobs available, a lot of opportunities available? Can you kind of walk us through your story as you graduated and moved into your current practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Graduating is scary. You're kind of like going through school and all you can think about is graduating. And then you get there and you're like, oh man, I'm graduating. Now I got to figure out how to pay my loans back and how to be a doctor all of a sudden. For me, I was very, very, very fortunate. Like you said, I was very involved in the student ACA, SACA. That really opened up a lot of doors for me. Being so involved and knowing so many docs and really putting myself out there, I knew so many people. I had a great network around me. So when it came time to really look for a job, my boss is actually on the board of governors of the ACA. So that's kind of how he and I got to know each other. I was, like I said, I was very lucky to be given that opportunity. I did have other options, but at the time I felt like this was the best opportunity for me. So, it's one of those things where I've seen both ends of it. I've seen friends go through school and not be involved, and they walk out with a great job doing exactly what they want to do, how they want to practice. And I've seen the opposite, where people weren't so involved and it made it a little bit tougher for them. They didn't have that network around them that kind of created the job for them, or it didn't kind of fall into their lap. They had to work a little bit harder for it. I will say that most of my friends that were heavily involved in the ACA as students, they had a similar network to me. And most of us have walked out with really great jobs with some really great evidence-based chiropractors. Obviously the ACA is much more evidence-based, if you will, but we've all found great positions working with doctors that we have a lot of respect for. So very fortunate in that way.
Yeah, thank you. And let's dig into that a little bit in terms of, how those opportunities arose for you, and then also kind of your role at the ACA, and then also the role of ACA in the larger chiropractic landscape. So I guess what I'm curious about from your perspective is, what did you see working behind the scenes in the ACA, and where do you really feel like the profession is going, and what role are students who are active in the ACA taking in that role?
Ooh, that is a lot of really great questions. Lou Sportelli, I hope most of you students know who that is by now. He was kind of the key doctor behind the Wilkes trial, really kind of saved chiropractic in the 80s and into the early 90s. I got an email from him one time as a member of the student ACA, and he signs all of his emails with a quote. And the quote is, "The surest way to happiness is to lose yourself in a cause greater than yourself." Of course he would write that or have that as his quote. And that really struck me, and it's stuck with me as I've gone through my career so far. Being involved in our profession is, I think, vital. No matter what side of the line you're on, of course, I'd like everyone to be on the ACA side and, move us forward. But I don't think that any of us got into chiropractic thinking that we are the front runner in the healthcare community. Let's be honest about it. We're not. We're still alternative medicine. We're still a little behind the 8 ball at times in terms of our reputation in the healthcare community and in the public eye. The sooner that we're honest with ourselves about that, the sooner we can move forward from it. So that was what it was for me. I looked at it and I said, I love chiropractic. I love what we do. I love that we provide such great care for our patients. I was a patient. That's how I got involved, like I'm sure most of you out there. But getting involved is, I think, so important. Everyone has their own unique talents. I was lucky. My first day at Palmer West, the Student California Chiropractic Association president came in and said, "Hey, I know it's your first day, but it's our lobbying days coming up here in about a week. And you have to miss school. And I know you guys are brand new, but we want to run it by you." And he was telling our entire class. And for whatever reason, that excited me. I was like, wow, that would be really cool. So I kind of organized a coup and told my entire class, hey, if nobody shows up, they can't really get mad at us. So I managed to convince my entire class. We all hopped on a bus provided by the association and went up to Sacramento. And I fell in love. I was like, this is where my strength is. I can do this. I can do this political realm thing. That said, a lot of people can't. That is not their jam. There are people out there that, like yourself, you're doing this great, webinar podcast. You're immersing yourself and you're creating great content. That's such a strength. I don't have it. I'm okay on this end. I could not do what you're doing. And there's other people out there that have their own strengths. And, whether it's getting into sports or teaching or research, whatever it is, immerse yourself in that. And I think that's kind of my takeaway message right at the beginning, and I'll probably touch on it a few times, is give all of yourself to it. If you know your strength, double, triple, quadruple down on that. Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you guys follow him at all, but he says that all the time. He's like, take what you know, take what you're really good at and own it and be the best at it. If you're already good at it, own it. Following that, know what your weaknesses are, especially when you get into practice. You're going to have weaknesses. It might be marketing. It might be the bookkeeping. Accept it and say, okay, well, if I'm really not the best at these certain things, maybe you're not the best at rehab or soft tissue, whatever it might be, accept that, try to be better, but then be really, really, really good at everything else. If you already know, like, hey, I'm a great adjuster. I am great at lumbar spines. That is my jam. Own that. Own that. Because make your practice focus on, lumbar issues. Try to market yourself that way. Create that niche market that'll cater to that. That's something I see too many people try to do, is they try to dabble in a little bit of everything, which is fine, but you're going to find when you get into practice, if you don't own one thing, if you're not like, hey, this is where I really shine, this is what I really do well, are marketing themselves as really good at something, are going to outshine you. You guys are Life West. There's a lot of great docs that I know out of there that are doing some really, really cool things. I know docs all over the country from every different school that have come out, and they each do something a little bit unique, and they own it. They just say, this is how I do things. But they're open to other things. They say, yeah, okay, that's great. Do this, do that. But they really talk about, hey, this is what I'm really good at, and they doubled down, they tripled down on that. So that's my kind of early take-home message, like I said. Speaking with the ACA stuff, that was the second part of your question, I think. Being involved on the ground floor was really unique. We got to be exposed to a lot of things. I got to go to Greeley, Colorado, and hang out at the national boards for a weekend. That was a great opportunity, getting to see kind of the behind the scenes of that. Being involved in conference calls and involved with doctors that are dedicating themselves and their time to make the profession better. You can't surround yourself with better people. You can't find a better group of people that will influence you and tell you, hey, go be better, go give your time. It's about servant leadership, and there's so many different aspects of the ACA. You know, we talk about politics of the profession, but the ACA, in my opinion, does so much more than that. The camaraderie, for one, as a student was huge for me. I got married last December, and I had a bunch of my friends that I had met through the student ACA from tons of different schools at my wedding, because we had become so close. We become such good friends that I wanted them there. They wanted to be there for me. So I think that's something unique that you don't find very often, especially in chiropractic. We kind of live in that bubble of our school or our classroom, and it really opened my eyes to what else is out there. You know, sometimes we live in an echo chamber. You know, Palmer West is very evidence-based, and you know, you kind of, I don't want to say look down on other things, but you only hear the rumors. You only hear, you know, this stuff is voodoo or it's super weird. But why not expose yourself to it? Why not learn about it? That's why I have a ton of respect for what you're doing, reaching out to kind of the evidence-based circuit, if you will. That takes a lot of courage to do, and I respect the heck out of you for it. But what I really took away from being in, just as a general member of the student ACA, was exposing myself to every other school out there, or almost every other school, and learning what they teach and what their approach is, and getting to talk on a personal level with people that think mostly like I do, but they had just a little bit of a different perspective. There was, you know, this huge common ground, but little things here and there were a little different. So that was huge. Speaking to the politics of the profession, it was a huge honor for me to be involved with a lot of great things. I had the opportunity to rewrite the bylaws of the student ACA, and with a task force around me, and that was a really unique thing, getting to really see, like, where do we want to take the profession? Where do we as students want to see the profession? And not today, not tomorrow. We're looking 10 years out. We're looking 15 years out. And that was really eye-opening for me. And I think that being involved and watching all of this blossom has been really unique, especially from behind the scenes, getting to see what really goes on and what's behind so many decisions, and the amount of effort that goes into it. I'm sure, I hope a lot of you students out there have seen the new Choosing Wisely campaign that the ACA sponsored. It was a little controversial. There were some things in there regarding taking x-rays that a lot of people were really concerned about. And knowing what the thought process was behind that, and where that entire line of thinking came from, and the research behind it, and the amount of hours that were spent putting those together, it was easier for me to go, oh, I'm 100% behind this. But I can see how it's that same rumor mill that ends up happening, where people hear one thing and it spirals into, oh, the ACA hates x-rays and they say we shouldn't take x-rays. No, absolutely not. It was more so a matter of let's be smart about taking our x-rays. Let's talk about why we're taking x-rays. Let's use some clinical thinking behind taking x-rays or anything that we do. And it really got spun out of control in some circles, which was disheartening for me being on the ground floor. But, you know, I think that it comes back to that echo chamber of, I would recommend that everybody get involved, at least follow it on Facebook, at least be somewhat engaged in the conversation. And if you disagree, talk about why and have an honest conversation about why. I've had a number of friends reach out to me and say, hey, I don't like that the ACA is doing this way. Wow. You know, I hadn't thought of your point of view. Let me send that up the chain. Let me talk to my boss about that. Let me talk to the board of governors. And I'm, you know, at this point, I'm a nobody. You know, I'm just a general member that happens to have been involved and know a number of people. That's it. You know, that's all it takes, is reaching out and being a steward of the profession and being honest with yourself and honest with others about it. So I hope that wasn't too long-winded. I hope that made sense about kind of my experience up to now, seeing what goes on the ground floor and why I was really honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, I thought that was perfect. I feel like you really captured how the purpose behind the ACA was so important. And
Definitely.
how, you know, really got behind that purpose and you got involved in, and like you said, you figured out early on in school what your strength was. You had a strength influencing people, mobilizing people, being a part of that political process, finding common ground with people, being able to hear people's concerns, reflect those concerns back to them, you know, help them articulate those concerns, and then if necessary, you know, move those concerns up the line so that, you know, the political process can represent the most people. And I think that's something we maybe forget as chiropractic students, that, you know, I mean, they call it politics for a reason. Like, it represents the most people's perspective, but ultimately it can't represent everybody, and it doesn't represent all the concerns that are out there. Definitely. And, you know, and so like you said, really getting involved and making the changes that you want to see is really the only way to create change. And I know from my perspective as a student, and I imagine you had a similar perspective, there are changes that you would like to see in the profession.
Definitely. It's you know, it's interesting you bring that up. So I'm actually secretary of our state association, and I was given the opportunity to testify in front of our state legislature on behalf of, you know, on behalf of the state association, but really on behalf of chiropractic. The issue was the physical therapists in our state were wanting the ability to manipulate or adjust. And it was going to be just a free-for-all. There was no extra guidelines, no additional training, nothing. It was just, they wrote a bill and snuck that in there. And fortunately, our state association president and our lobbyists they're on top of things, and they caught this. So I went down to the Capitol and I testified on behalf of chiropractic and our state association. And it was a heated conversation. You know, there was a lot of questions coming at me from the legislators. And, you know, it didn't end great because there was a lot of conflict between the physical therapists and the chiropractors. So about a week later, I get a phone call from our chiropractic board, which is obviously different than our association. And he says, hey, I've got a meeting, a closed door meeting with one of our state senators. It's going to be you, me, and two people from the physical therapy side. So one person from their association and one person from their board. So I go into this meeting, and closed door. I mean, it was full on like a TV show. And this senator absolutely tried to ream us. I mean, just calling us out because she didn't really know much about chiropractic. She had a nephew who was in physical therapy school in the Midwest somewhere. and she had downloaded it was like a blog from the internet, and handed me the paper and said, "This is what chiropractors are." And I read this thing, and it was awful. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I had to then go from behind the 8 ball and explain to her, no, that's really not what it is. And she was really resistant, and she finally got really close to me and said, "So you mean to tell me that if I came to your office with cancer, you could diagnose that?" Well, relatively speaking, yeah. And she said, okay. She goes, "And if I came to you with a heart condition, you could diagnose that?" Yeah. And the president of the board is sitting there, and he goes, "Ma'am, with all due respect, he not only can, he's legally required to do so, and would end up in front of me if he didn't do that, and it did not go well." She was shocked. She had no idea. No idea. And this is a senator that the law was in front of her that this is what we do. The reason I bring that up is two reasons. One, to stay involved, to get involved. That's not for me to brag about, talking to a senator. The reason I bring that up is really more so to talk about, if you don't show up, if you don't at least support the people who do show up, who's going to do it? We're going to get walked all over. And I don't mean that as a scare tactic. I mean that as an encouragement, that we're always looking for volunteers. And going back to talking about us being a little bit behind the 8 ball in the public eye and in the healthcare community, that's how easy it is. If that senator had not at least heard what we had to say, there would be literally, and I don't mean this as a joke, literally no difference between chiropractors and physical therapists in our state. None. And that's kind of frightening to me. And I love physical therapists. Like you said, I used to work for one. But we have to be a profession, and we have to be more than just the adjustment. We have to be more than finding subluxations. We have to be a profession. We have to be doctors. And that's huge to me. I don't think that anybody got into this field not feeling pride that they were in a doctoral program. I hope that you guys are proud of that. I hope that you are, as you go through, you're like, wow, I know a thing or two, and own that. The other reason I bring it up is to share with you that getting involved and volunteering your time goes a long way. It really does. I mean, I'm 29 years old. I'm a year out of school, and I just happened to reach out to our state association president. I said, hey, I want to help. That's all I care about. I want to give back to our profession, because I know that we're fighting an uphill battle. And he said, great. How do you want to be on the board? Yeah. Then he said, great. Work with me for a little bit. And I got promoted to secretary within my first year. So I'm not saying that'll happen for everybody, but that's just to show you that volunteering yourself and giving of yourself to the profession, you can make a huge difference. So that was kind of my little tangent there, but I wanted to share that with you, so you kind of got a feel for what you can do in the political realm.
Yeah, I want to start by saying thank you for being involved, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And also, I live with what I call them bystanders. I don't live with any chiropractic students. And so when I'm, out in the kitchen talking about learning clinical chemistry and learning about X-ray biophysics and learning all the stuff and being in school, for 10 to 12 hours a day, everybody is completely blown away and surprised. They're like, well, why do you need to know that? You just adjust people. And I think, from a chiropractic perspective, we've done a bad job of telling people the amount of education we get in order to do what we're doing. And there does appear to be a trend in the profession to some extent for people to become chiropractic technicians as opposed to doctors. Absolutely. And I just want to know what your perspective is on that, especially, being out of school for a year and how you feel the benefits and the drawbacks of that may be.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it when you said a lot of people get out of school and want to be chiropractic technicians. There's such a difference between, from what I've seen, being in school and treating the patients that come into the clinic and what I've seen outside. It's very easy. It would be very easy for me, or for anybody really, to set up shop and just start cracking people's backs and praying for the best. Odds are you'll probably be okay. You probably won't hurt too many people, but it's that one person. It's that one person that you don't take the time to listen to, that you take the time to be a diagnostician first. That's something that I learned from my mentor clinician, was be the best diagnostician you can. The rest of it'll come. And I've really lived by that. And I think possibly because of that, I attract a lot of the zebras. I'm sure you guys hear that term in school. If you're always looking for zebras, you're going to miss all the horses. I get the zebras. I'm like on a first name, cell phone call away to a couple surgeons in town, because for whatever reason, I get these things. I've caught subclavian clots. I've caught heart issues. I caught a stroke. I've caught all kinds of things. And that's not to brag. That's to say, man, you want to feel fear, have one of those walk into your office and think, if I hadn't used my head for just a minute, if I had not been a doctor of chiropractic and I had just been a chiropractic technician, what would have happened? And when you start to, apply for your license and you start, getting your malpractice insurance, and you realize, man, I could be in a lot of trouble. And worse than that, you're doing the public a disservice. And that's what it's all about. It's not about making money. It's not about being, the next, Brett Jones. It's about serving the public, right? I know you guys all know him. It's about helping people. That's why we all do this. If you can keep that at the forefront of your mind every time you go in, this is about the patient. It's not about me blowing up someone's lumbars or, getting that perfect adjustment. That's great. That's your treatment, but put them first. Put the public trust over the sacred trust. Put the public trust over everything. If you treat your patients like they're a person that happens to have issues, you're gonna go a long way. You're gonna help a lot of people. But keep that in mind, that zebras do come in, and not everything needs an adjustment. Not every person that comes in needs to be adjusted. Some of them need to go and get some other care, maybe first or simultaneously. So that's something I see a lot of. I see a lot of people just trying to be a technician and make a lot of money, or treat as many people as they can, which is fine. No doubt about it. Hey, we all need to pay our student loans back, but put that first. Put that first, and the rest will come naturally, and it'll come easily. That's at least what I've experienced so far.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's so important. Really, like you said, being patient-centered and putting the public's trust, first and foremost, because, 90%, maybe even more than that, who come into the office are really looking for a general practitioner. They're looking for somebody who can figure out what's going on with them, because for the most part, chiropractors are the last resort. They've tried everything else. They've tried everything within their insurance, and they're coming to us. And, sometimes insurance does cover us. And so I can hear a lot of the students thinking, okay, I want to be a better diagnostician. Hopefully we get it in school, but maybe we don't. So, clearly you had mentors, you had resources that really helped you refine your diagnostic and assessment skills. Can you share any of those with us?
Yeah. What that's the easiest question. I did two things. Number one, I when I got into clinic, I literally stuck my nose in our diagnosis book. And if I had, my first patient was like, they had a headache. I said, okay, I'm going to go open my book and I'm going to read everything there is about headaches. Even though I had learned it, you miss things. You're studying for the test at times. You're studying for boards. You kind of lose sight of thinking of it as a person. When you're looking at a diagnosis, think about the person. That's a person that has this. It's not just a cut and dry multiple choice test question. That really changes your perspective. So that's what I did, is every time I had someone come in, I would look up what their issue was. And then I would go home afterwards and I'd think, okay, what would be my differential diagnoses for that condition? And I'd go read up on those. And so that way, the next time that somebody came in with a headache, I felt more confident. I was like, oh, well, this could be one of 5 different things. Let's run through the checklist, figure that out. The second thing that I did that I think helped me the most, I don't know how it is at your guys' schools, but at my school, we had this intern workroom. So once you're in the clinic, there's this room, and you kind of can't wait to hang out in there because it's for interns only. And it was a cool place. And, you hung up your clinic jacket, you're hanging out, you're watching Netflix, you're bumping music. You hang out in there when you're not treating patients. Well, I was like, I'm not going to learn anything in here. And what can I do? So my mentor clinician had an office and he had a couch in there. And I went in there every day. And even if I didn't have patients, I was just sitting on his couch during his hours. And he was kind of a hard-nosed guy. And he goes, dude, what the 4-letter word are you doing in here? You never leave and you're not seeing patients. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, I'm here to learn. And I want to know everything you know, for one. And 2, I want to watch you and listen to you teach other people who come in with questions. Because more than likely, I either have that same question or I will at some point. And he kind of looked at me like, okay, maybe this kid, is serious. But every day, I just went in and I would sit there for a few hours every day. And I absorbed so much through that. And, once I got a little better, he would kind of grill me on things. And he would say, okay, well, let's pick a body part and let's learn everything that we can about that. And then let's take it a step farther and go, well, how would we fix that? Would an adjustment work? Or what exercise would make the most sense? And so we would kind of just brainstorm out these things. That was probably the best thing I did in my chiropractic career, was annoy my clinician every day. And he will tell you that. Ty Pence will tell you I annoyed him every day. We're good friends now that I graduated, but I drove him nuts, I'm sure. But I told him, hey, man, I'm paying, what is it a quarter now? Like $8,000 a quarter. I'm not paying that money to hang out with my friends in the workroom. I'm here to learn something and to walk out and be at least sort of decent. A friend of mine and I, we always joke, we're just trying not to suck. That's pretty much what you're trying to do. And I've been out for a year. He's been out for 15 years. And that's our running joke. Just try not to suck today. And that's kind of what you have to think of it as, because there's always something more to learn. There's always something else. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to know it all. Just try not to suck. So if you take nothing else away, take that away. Try not to suck, and you'll be okay for the most part.
Well, I'm definitely going to try not to suck. And yeah, and I think that was super valuable. I definitely have heard that before from other people, but I really feel like, like everything you've talked about, you're so proactive, and you really people take things a little way there, but you take it that much further. You're like, okay, well, people are spending an hour in the office, but I'm going to spend 5 hours in the office. Or people are reading, this one little section on headaches, but I'm going to read the whole chapter. And right. I really appreciate that about you. I think that is exactly the mentality, the curiosity, the drive that you need in order to not suck. So yeah, thank you for that.
For sure. Just as a caveat real quick, I don't want you guys to think I'm like some awesome dude. I failed 3 different classes, didn't pass. So I was not valedictorian. I was not salutatorian. And that almost inspired me, I think, towards the end, where I was like, man, I didn't pass those classes. Now, granted, they were hard classes, so on and so forth, but you know what? I'm open about that. I didn't pass them. I had to retake them. And it was humbling. And I think that was when I really went, man, you know what? This is an area that it's a weakness of mine, so I need to step it up here. But I'm also going to own what I can. And so that, like I said, I was going to come back to that. That was something that really was rough for me to take. I could give you 1,000,001 excuses. The fact of the matter is I didn't put in the work. I didn't study hard enough, and I failed because of it. And so, if you're out there and you're thinking, man, wow, this guy puts in 5 hours a day, he's reading, he's doing all this stuff, man, if we had had this interview, Q8, we'd be having a very different conversation. So, it's never, I hate to be cliche, but it's never too late to start, putting in the work. And if you feel like you're behind the 8 ball, well, start working now, because tomorrow you're just going to be a little bit farther behind. So that's my little extra bit there, so no one thinks I'm like some egomaniac and killer dude. Like I said, I'm just trying not to suck.
Yeah, thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing that on air. I'm sure that was a bitter pill to swallow, and sometimes it's those bitter pills that push us to be that much better and really help us to, like you were saying, like refine your strengths and really get even better at the things that you're already really good at. So I know that students are going to have questions. Other chiropractors are going to have questions about getting involved, and just want to reach out to you and connect. So what's the best place for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Yeah, anybody can find me on Facebook, Jonathan Parham. I think it's just simple as that. I'm looking at it right now, just making sure that's the right thing. Yep. Find me on Facebook. If you want to email me, it's John Parham DC, JON, there's no H in there, JONPARHAMDC@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat. I'd love to hear that, you're curious. The best thing that I can advise you to do, though, would be, as students, join SACA. Put your name out there and chat with your local SACA chapter on your campus if you have one, and just get to know them and say, hey, maybe I'm not ready to be an officer or be super involved, but I'd like to at least hang out with you guys and see what this is all about. I learned so much from that. It made me a better person, definitely made me a better chiropractor. So nothing else, at least go hang out with those folks.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said earlier, be part of that network. Like we said, we're so isolated in these little silos of the different schools, and every school is so different, and the principles and the values of each school is different. But it's those national organizations that bring all these different perspectives together and create this web and create this network and this ability to really connect beyond the walls of the different schools. So thank you for that.
Thanks for having me, seriously.
Yeah, definitely. So this has been a production of DC to Be Revolution, helping chiropractic students think big in order to live large. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel, leaving some comments in the comments section below. Really appreciate your time. Dr. Jonathan Parham, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.